Greg Fury people, or Master of Ceremonies. I'm a bit of an educated man, and personally, I think he's more of a PhD of ceremonies myself. Also, give it up for Simon Hughes, because without him, this room wouldn't exist, and we all wouldn't be here enjoying all this awesome community. I really enjoy doing comedy, but I find myself at a pretty big disadvantage when it comes to comedy, because a lot of the bravest and the best comedy comes from when you're overcoming in a complete lifetime of struggle and possible stereotyping and gender inequality. And comedy is kind of one of the only things I've ever done where I find myself legitimately envious of people that have it worse off than me. So I'll just be walking down the street and I'll see like a homeless person, I'll be like, fuck, there's so much good homeless material. Oh my God. And so much time to work on it. And it's like, what am I supposed to talk about as a middle-class white male? Like, am I supposed to do white male privilege jokes? Like, no, that would just make me an asshole. Either that, or I would have to come to terms with the fact that throughout my life, I've been given certain opportunities and advantages purely due to my gender and my race, and I'm really not willing to come to terms with that just so I can use it for a few jokes at a comedy night. I guess some of you are probably wondering, yes, I am wearing a t-shirt that says douche. My sister gave it to me, I assume because she knows I'm not only a fan of French culture, but I also really like showering. I see some people are bilingual here. So I have a full-time job, and I guess that's the one thing that I do get a lot of good comedy material out of. I often have a lot going on at work, and one particular occasion, my manager came up to me and said, you know, I really need you, Sam, I need you to get this work done by the end of the week. And I said, look, it's Thursday, I have a lot of work going on, there's no fucking way I can complete this work for you by the end of the week. And he said, Sam, my office, now. And then I was like, oh shit. So, because I don't usually stand up for myself at work, and then I did that time. And then I went into his office, and I sat down with him, and we had a lengthy discussion. And we talked about business objectives, we talked about personal objectives. And then we both left the room with mutual respect for each other and a clear understanding of the path forward and what needed to be accomplished by the end of the week. And I left the room thinking, fuck, that gave me absolutely no material for comedy. So I'm agnostic. I don't know how many religious people there are in the crowd tonight, but I don't really care. The major three religions, in my opinion, they're bullshit. Like, they pretty much have to be. And, I mean, I'm gonna pick on Christianity a little bit because that's the religion that I'm most familiar with. I'm not that familiar with Islam. My biggest exposure to Islam was when they brought down the World Trade Center. See, and I'm actually so not that guy that I feel uncomfortable telling that joke. So my understanding of Christianity is that, so there's Jesus, he's the Son of God, and then God told him a bunch of stuff, and then he told his disciples, and then they told a bunch of people, and then they told a bunch of people, and then eventually someone changed the color of skin of all the main characters and wrote it all down. And like anyone who's played, like in the States, we call it the game telephone, where you whisper one thing into one person's ear and then they whisper to the next person. Then by the end of it going through a bunch of people, it's completely different. So I have to imagine that if Jesus read the Bible, he'd just be like, Well, I didn't say that. What? No, I said son of Maud. That's a nickname I gave Mary. Look, this is complete bullshit. And I guess the important rule there is you have to document things yourself. And I will admit, there's a lot of people here from work, and really that entire joke was just to let you guys know that you should document your work. Because I'm actually in charge of some of those people, so yeah, document things. Look what happened to Jesus. And the other thing that annoys me is I feel like Christians have these trump card phrases, where they can just drop them like 5th grade logic and just win any argument because there's no way you can argue against it. It's not the best logic, but you know, anytime an ardent Christian is faced with a ton of evidence that just completely contradicts what's written in the Bible, they'll just say something like, well, I see all that evidence, but what I think is that God planted that evidence just to test my faith. And I just wish I could do that. You know, like if I'm ever charged with a serious crime and you're at trial and the evidence is just really, really not looking good for you, I wish I could just stand up at my closing statement and be like, guys, I know what it looks like. I know what all the evidence is saying. But have you ever stopped for 1 second to consider that maybe I planted all that evidence just to test your faith? And then the other thing that annoys me is you can talk to people that are ardent believers of modern religions, and you can talk to them about Greek myths, and they're just like, yeah, that's ridiculous that everyone used to believe that, all those different gods. And to me, it's the same thing. They're just books with really ardent fan bases. They're just from different periods. And it's kind of, the transition between being a legitimate religion and being a myth, I think, is when people start naming celestial bodies after your gods. So as soon as they started naming the planets after the Greek gods, that's when everyone's just like, oh, fuck. Yeah, it's a myth, that's it. Done. And it had me wondering, is there just a time limit on religion? And in a couple hundred years, people are going to start going around knocking on synagogues and be like, hey, guys, Jews, look, time's up. You guys knew when you started this that you're going to have to phase into a myth eventually. And it's here. Like, there's a galaxy over there. Is that okay? We're going to name it Moses. Christians, Muslims, you're coming up pretty soon. You might want to start picking out galaxies, good ones. They're going to be gone pretty soon, so get on that right now, guys. I'm originally from the States, and I moved here to Australia, and you guys have some very odd phrases, and they confuse me a lot. And one of the phrases that confuses me is, it looks like a dog's breakfast, which it means something's very unappealing. And there's a couple of things that worry me about this phrase. And the first one is, I mean, look, I don't know if dog food should be the gold standard of what unappealing is. All I'm saying is that if you're at a pub and you're like 3 pints deep, and the bartender puts out a bowl of dry dog food, and you're really hungry, you're not gonna try that?
No.
Come on. That's bullshit. And I guarantee you, if you were to package that in plastic with some farm on it, with some nice, I don't know, flowers or some shit, and you were to call it organic vegan yoga nuggets, and you put it in a store in Fitzroy, people would buy it. Okay? People would buy it, yeah. Someone is like really backing me up with this group. Thank you. I'm preaching up here. The nuggets. And the second thing that really bothers me about that phrase is the phrase is it looks like a dog's breakfast, not it looks like dog's food. Now, in the States, we fed our dogs dog food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Is it like fine dining here for the dogs on lunch and dinner? Is that how it works? I mean, is it like a doggy degustation? Like, oh, welcome back to the restaurant, Mr. Barklesworth. I'll bring you to your table. Stay, sit. We have 4 types of water for you. We have tap water, still, sparkling, or toilet. We'll get you started with the first course. It's a deconstructed dog bone. It's made with toasted organic farro, on top of a bed of minced cow's liver and finished with salmon foam. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Now, a lot of comedians would segue from that into making fun of fine dining, but I like fine dining. And one of the things that annoys me is reading fine dining reviews. Because there's always a multitude of people that are like, yeah, it was okay, but look, I can get like 4 times that amount of steak at my local pub for like $15 on steak night. And it's like, that is the equivalent of going to the ballet and being like, yeah, Terminator 2 was a better value. Do you guys know what it is when you look at a date? Well, no. I guess only if you're looking at the day and the month. Yeah. So we switch the day and the month. We do month first, then day, then year. And the reason I think this might be confusing for Australians is when I first got here, my partner and I, we booked a wine tour. And we went out wine tasting, and the guy who was leading the tour, he was a nice guy. He was Australian. He was like a typical Australian bloke, except for that he liked drinking wine instead of drinking beer and driving a car full of his kids off a pier in Port Lincoln. Yeah, I read the news. And he said something during that tour that really threw me for a loop. So during the tour, he was describing certain events in his life. And he got to one, and he was giving us a reference on when it happened. And he said, yeah, and that event happened early September 2001. And then he said, or for you Americans, because he could tell from our accents, because he's a smart guy, he could tell that we were American from our accents. And he used the phrase, or for your Americans, as if we didn't understand the first part. And then he said, right around the 9/11 terrorist attacks. As if early September 2001. We're just sitting there like, what the fuck? When is he talking about? Oh, God damn. Could you reference that to a severe national tragedy in the US so that I know when you're talking about? Because I got no idea what you're saying, man. I'm trying to keep up with you. I'm trying to like, remember and keep all these, like when these events happen. I have no idea what you're talking about. So he did, and that was nice of him. In case you're curious, I was born right around the crash Delta Airlines Flight 191. Yeah, it's not a very memorable time period, and which is why all my friends forget my fucking birthday. One other thing that annoys me is I get confused about a lot of names that you guys have in Australia. One of them that confuses me is New South Wales. Was South Wales ever a thing? Like, I can understand New Wales, but it's like New South Wales. So was New South Wales just settled by a bunch of like really bitter people from the south of Wales that wanted to just really let everyone know we're not from the fucking north, we're from South Wales. We're just like, South Wales, motherfucker, New South Wales! South Wales, South Pride. And then a boat comes of like people from northern Wales, and they're like, hey, can't you fucking read? This is New South Wales. South Wales, bro. South Wales. Keep walking. But I do find that some of the names here maybe lack creativity. I went for a hike in the Grampians, and it was a difficult hike. It was strenuous. It was up a mountain. We spent the night on the top of the mountain, and then we hiked back down. I would call it difficult. Do you know what the name of the mountain was? It was Mount Difficult, which is the shittiest name for a mountain I think I've ever heard in my whole life. If that sounds too difficult for you, you could find in the same area, you might want to try Mount Moderately Difficult or Mount Easy Day Walk. All available up there. Another thing that has just always stuck out in my mind is the name of a particular beach on the Mornington Peninsula. And some of you know what this is because you've seen this bit before. So anyway, you drive down the Mornington Peninsula, and most of the beach names, they're borrowed from other places. They're borrowed from Italy, they're borrowed from the UK. That's fine. And then there's one you drive by, and you're just like, what? Does anybody know what it is? Yeah, Safety Beach. What the fuck kind of a name for a beach is Safety Beach? I feel like if I were to walk onto Safety Beach, I would immediately be approached by a cartoon seal. And he would just be like, hi, I'm Safety the Seal, distant relative of Ice-T the Rapper. I hope you're not thinking about getting in that water. You just ate a little while ago, and they say you should wait 20 minutes before you get in the water. Oh, well, you know, Safety, they basically proved that as an urban myth. Actually, you can get in the water right after you eat. Well, don't you think you'd be better to play it safe? I hope you're not thinking about drinking that beer on the beach. You know, alcohol and water don't mix. Well, actually, Safety, they do. Alcohol and water do mix quite well. It's not like oil and water, but I understand where you're going with the phrase. I hope you're not going to get in that car after you've had that beer. You know, impairment starts with the first drink. Oh, fuck it, let's go to Point Danger. And there's more to that story, right? Because Safety Beach actually used to have a different name. And I learned about that by talking to a local on Mornington Beach. Does anybody do that? I feel like people from cities don't ever talk to locals when they travel. But I have decent conversations with them because of my accent, and they're curious, and so am I. That's a fact. That's not even a joke. So I had a conversation with a local on the Mornington Peninsula. Does anyone want to guess what Safety Beach used to be called? It used to be called Shark Bay. And the reason it was called Shark Bay is that the fishermen used to go there and they used to drop off any of their unused bait into the water. And then the sharks would come and they would eat it. And honestly, Shark Bay is not even that original of a name. Because, okay, there's sharks in a bay, oh, what should we call it? Shark Bay. And so they stopped doing that. They stopped. And then years and years went by, and they realized people didn't want to go to Shark Bay for some reason. And they wanted to encourage more people to go there, so they decided to remarket it. They decided to rename it. And they wanted to give it a name that would make people feel safe. And, like, I just really hope that there was, like, a fucking committee there, like, just trying to come up with a name. All right, guys, we gotta rename Safety Beach. We're gonna lock the door. We've got Australia's best creative talent in the room. We need to come up with a new name for Shark Bay. And it needs to instill in everyone the sense that it is still a beach and that it is safe. And then someone's like, oh, what about not Shark Bay? No, it doesn't have a good ring to it. Oh, what about no sharks here, beach? No. Again, guys, we need to emphasize both safety and beach. Does anyone have an idea? No. Well, let me just write on this dry erase board what we need to emphasize. We need to emphasize safety and beach. Oh my God. I've fucking done it. Safety beach. That's it for me, guys. Thanks a lot. It's been great.
Sam Kirkpatrick, ladies and gentlemen. There are two